So I'm going to read from Ecclesiastes 3. As I've said many times before, there is this myth that our sacred text comes to us as one voice, and it does not. It comes to us in the form of many, many voices. And in fact, the early church did not even have a compilation of what the reformers then thought needed to be central to our tradition, which was the Word. The early church was a community of many different communities who were looking through some different lenses. They were not on the same page theologically. They had at the heart of their practice the breaking of bread, table fellowship, an attempt to include the vulnerable, the Psalms, if they were from the Judaic tradition, in which to sing praises. And then within about 4 centuries, the fathers of the church then compiled bits and pieces. Some they swept under the carpet. Anything having to do with the empowerment of women got under the carpet. Or if they thought they were written by women, under the carpet. So I kind of rejoice in this new season, which is post-Protestant Reformation. And I think invites us to embrace another story, a larger story, but recognizing once again that the only thing that is true is that seasons come and go. So I think that the philosopher, this Greek philosopher, it's really interesting that his words even got into the text right up there with the Song of Songs that talk about sensuous love. How did that get in, really? That these little mini alternative voices spring up every once in a while that challenge in many ways what have been dominant voices. So that you'll hear in these words like, seasons come, seasons go. What are you gonna do? You live your life, you grab for joy. That's it. So, I tell you, eyesight comes and eyesight goes. No 4-letter words follow that sentence. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter in the cosmos. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. What gain have the workers from their toil? I have seen the work that God has given to everyone to be busy with. I know that there is nothing better for them. At the end of the day, however, to be happy and to enjoy themselves as long as they live. Moreover, I saw under the sun that in the place of justice, wickedness was there. And in the place of righteousness, wickedness was there as well. I said in my heart, God will judge the righteous and the wicked. I said in my heart with regard to human beings that God is testing them to show that they are but animals. For the fate of humans and the fate of animals is the same. As one dies, so does the other. They all have the same breath, and humans have no advantage over the animals, for all is vanity. All go to one place. All are from the dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knows whether the human spirit goes upward and the spirit of animals go downward to the earth? So I saw that at the end of the day, there is nothing better than that all should enjoy their moments on this earth. For that is their lot. So speaking of seasons that come and go, I am in the midst of letting go two major influences in my life. Do you know what they are? Huh? Oh, no, ever. One of them is being ripped from the landscape of Canadian memory. Can you guess what I am talking about? It would have arrived in my childhood home, well, about now, every year, and a month from now, it will have been showing signs of a great deal of wear, particularly in a household with 4 children. The wish book, the Christmas wish book. The Christmas wish book. My favorite page, of course, was the one that was entitled Gifts Under $3. Because I was a Donovan, you know. And while I'm not sure if I ever got any of those gifts from that wish book, it was great fun to have around. It was fun to dream. The next item is a bit different. I have made the decision after over a year of agonizing. Should I? Shouldn't I? But I'm about to pull the plug on my Bell landline. Still makes me a bit nervous. Like, really? Forever. Seasons come and seasons go. The longer we live, the more we know that to be true. We know that our body is in the midst of decay. We know that this is the life cycle. We know, when it comes right down to it, that one truth from that book, I keep quoting, The Wild Edge of Sorrow, that everything we love will die. And I don't care much about the wish book, but the thought of thousands and thousands of people losing their jobs to the cyber economy and on top of that being robbed of their pension, well, that really does get to me. And it is not a good season in Canada because of that. And the phone, well, I resisted a cell phone forever. And then the second teenager showed up. And I thought, in the middle of the night, if on one occasion he couldn't contact me, I thought. And so then I went to the cell phone and held on to that landline, though I'm the only person in the house who ever picks it up. It stops us in our tracks a bit, doesn't it? When these major institutions, Sears, Ma Bell, that shaped our lives, suddenly come to the end, and the next generation will know nothing of them. Seasons come and seasons go. And we know it's not just items like the wish book and the landline. We're now in the middle of massive philosophical and cultural shifts, some of which scare me to pieces. One in particular is really interesting. And I'll share that with you now. So I caught an interview this week with a doctor who was born of East Indian immigrants who grew up in rural Ohio. He has written a book, and Margaret and David and Dr. Hall and anyone in the medical field here today will tell you that his ideas have been evolving for decades but have not necessarily taken root in every corner of medicine. His name is Atul Gawande, and he's written a book. He's written many books, actually, and he's just a kid, like he's in his early 40s or something. Being Mortal. Medicine and what matters in the end. And he reflects that historically, the job of the doctor was always to ask the question, how can we fix it? And there was never a whole lot of conversation about the fact that, you know what, in the end, you're going to die. And his book is about the transition of the conversation, particularly from near the end of the 20th century up until now, that changes the question so that it goes, okay, we're going to die. How can we live the good life until we die? Because he said for years, medicine wouldn't talk about death, because to talk about death would be, in that paradigm, failure. The conversation was always, do we fight or do we give up? Whereas now the conversation has shifted so that the real question is, what are we fighting for? You have reasons you want to live, so can we facilitate that conversation? He uses the example of a woman who was probably 2 or 3 days from death and was lying in her bed all upset because her only wish in life was to have taken her children to Disney World. And he said, we missed the opportunity months before that to have the important conversation. We missed the fight. In his book, he redefines, and I don't think he's the only person doing it, but he sure articulates it well for the lay people, the purpose of medicine. He suggests that a big part of medicine, particularly as people age or are diagnosed with a terminal illness, is to enable well-being, which is about helping people connect with the reasons why they want to be alive. And so in order to get people to think about what well-being means to them, they are asked, in his book, he outlines these 5 questions, but the most important question is the 5th one. And I just want us to think about that for a moment. As seasons come and seasons go. What does a good day look like? If, for example, you found yourself confined to your home, or if you only had so much energy in the course of a day, what would a good day look like for you? And what he found out is that the answers were pretty simple. They didn't have anything to do with taking your grandchildren to Disney World. One man said, if I could just enjoy once a day food, family, conversation around the table, that would be a great day. Another one who was a busy politician said, honestly, a quiet room with a good book. His daughter's piano teacher, who had stopped teaching after her diagnosis and was wrestling all kinds of pain, said, if I could teach 1 lesson a day, that would be a great day for me. So they managed her pain and dealt with a few other things, and yes, for a couple years, she was able to teach 1 student a day. He then referred to a study done with a group of people who had stage 4 lung cancer. No hope of surviving. In the study, these patients were given choices to continue to try and kill the disease, more chemo, or stopping. What was interesting is that those who chose to stop chemo earlier suffered less and lived 25% longer. Why? They decided instead to talk about their priorities and to focus on a better quality of life. And with their life force reinforced, their reason for wanting to live reinforced, their joy reinforced, they lived longer. He talked about how this conversation in the medical world had already changed in the 90s. And so in the 90s, well, before the 90s, he said it was doctor knows best. And so in the 90s, there was a change in conversation with the patient. And so rather than saying, I think this is the course of treatment we need to take, the doctor then would put out all kinds of directions. And then the patient would look at these directions and say, I don't know. And then turn it back to the doctor and say, what would you do? And then the doctor would say, no, I can't make that choice for you. But he said the patients then felt completely abandoned because they were not invited to have the conversation around what really matters to you. And if we find out what really matters to you, then you will be in a position to decide what your course of treatment will be. Seasons come and seasons go. Nations rise and fall. Projects come together and then fall apart. Our bodies are young and vital one day and old and brittle the next. That's life. And I suspect that the question, what would be a good day for you, is one that might transcend all of these cycles. And I suspect that those people I know who are the happiest are not those necessarily who are the healthiest, but are those who know the answer to that question. What would be a good day for you? We could get caught up in the losses that seem to be coming at us fast and furious, the endings. And I suspect, myself guilty as well, that many of us do this because I think, like I said earlier, the North American culture comes with an element of this death-denying attitude. And it's bigger than our expectation of modern medicine. There is a sense, in some places anyway, that life owes us something. It's a sense of entitlement of sorts. We've lived good lives, we've worked hard, we've served our community, we've looked after ourselves. So why is this happening to me? The philosopher who wrote Ecclesiastes suggests that we look at life a little differently. Seasons come, seasons go, he writes. So look for the joy. Hold on to the joy. Seek the joy. Because our days are numbered.